asked Mrs. Dravlin. Miss Anbo. She'd gotten divorced last year, much to the delight of the 5th grade boys who were just coming into their first erections. Poppy wasn't okay. The day Mommy came home for a few hours, cut a permanent diner-sized pie slice out of his will to live. It was bad enough that Mommy's return was illogical, impossible, and for all that, irrefutable. It was that they had fought. That they had spent that last precious coda of their marriage fighting over a stupid, dead cat. My stupid dead cat. But I wasn't going to tell Miss Anbo any of that. I just said to her, "He's okay." She looked at me askance. "I called to tell him that we're awarding you the Science Student of the Year award. Again. Most parents would have been thrilled. Do you know what your father said to me?" "No." "He said, science is just the lie of the moment, like religion or astrology or alchemy. Right now it's science." I just waited for her to continue. "Your dad has a reputation for being one of the smartest teachers in Connecticut, Sal, but this, well, I don't know him very well, but that's not the sort of thing I would expect him to say." She gripped her nose, shook her head. "I'm sorry, I'm not making any sense." I just kicked my legs and looked at her. She came around the desk and to the chair I was sitting in, kneeling down to look at me eye to eye, her blouse bagged. She had on a practical tan bra. "Sal, I want you to let me know if you need anything. Sometimes it takes years to work through the grief of losing someone you love, like a mom or a wife." "Hey," she said kindly, pushing my chin up with a single finger so I'd look at her in the eyes. "You're doing great. Your dad too, but everyone needs a little help sometimes. I want you to let me know if there's anything you want to talk about. I know I am your principal, but I'm also a trained psychologist. I can help you if you want me to. I just want to help, okay?" When I went home that day, I said to Poppy, "Miss Anbo is worried about you." He sat on the floor, in front of his shrine to Elegua. He had set it up in the living room a few weeks after Mommy had gone, and hadn't much moved from it since. It was decorated with a red and black runner and candles and rum shots and hard brilliant candies and old fruit collapsing in on itself, and a big coconut with shells for eyes and a mouth, and Mommy's wedding picture, dead center. Poppy sat in half lotus in front of it, dressed in all white except for a necklace of red and black beads. He had shaved his head, his beard. He looked thinner and younger, but older too, because though he had lost weight, he still had all the skin that had bagged his fat for so many years. Now it hung off his skeleton like the wrinkly hide of a Shar-Pei. Without turning to me, he said, "Let her worry." I walked up behind him. There was a new addition to the shrine next to the coconut, a painting of a young boy. Bright colors, almost psychedelic. The boy looked like he came from a couple hundred years ago. He had a cloak and a hat with a feather in it, and he carried an empty basket and a staff with a gourd hanging off its hip. Putty flew around his head and smiled down on him. "Who's that?" I asked. "That's Elegua." I pointed at the coconut. I thought that was Elegua. That's Elegua too. See, the Africans were enslaved and taken from their home countries and brought to the Caribbean to work the fields. They weren't allowed to practice Yoruba, their own religion, but they were allowed to be Christians. They could have all the Christian icons they wanted, so they practiced Yoruba by using Christian saints. All of their gods got assigned one. Django got Santa Barbara, Oshun got Our Lady of Charity, and Elegua got that little fella, El Santo Niño de Atocha. "So Elegua is a little boy?" "Kind of. He's an old man with a little boy's face. That's because he's eternally young and playful, but wise too. He's the Pathfinder god, the guide to travelers. He helps you find your way when you're lost and takes care of you along the journey." "Really? He can do that?" Poppy looked away from the shrine at me. Some of the old irony came back into his face and made him seem more himself. "I don't know," he said finally. "I don't know anything. But before I met your mother, back when we were in Cuba, I was a Santero, a cabeza of Elegua. But I gave it up for her. She was a Catholic and I thought Santeria, and she thought Santeria was all black magic. It really scared her. She equated it with witchcraft, and the Bible says witchcraft will get you one-way ticket to hell. And then she would spend all eternity without me. He laughed. That woman, she was so sure she was going to heaven. Well, long story short, she cried and cried until I finally gave up my religion and became a Catholic. Oh, we used to be Catholic, I said. I had forgotten. He stood and went to the shrine and picked up a shot of rum and dumped it down his throat. He looked at the coconut and said, "Don't worry, I'll get you a refill." Then he turned back to me. "When your mommy died, I thought God was dead too. But then your mommy came back. We both saw her. She kissed us both that day. You on the forehead and me on the lips." He got on his knees in front of me, locked our eyes. "And that ruins everything, because it's impossible. Your mommy is dead." And there she was, in our living room, kissing and fighting with us like she'd never gone. It's like there's a parallel universe out there where she and you and I are still a family with small arguments and small problems. He was crying now. And all that unspoken love. And only God brings people back from the dead. Only God can do magic. "I do magic," I said quietly. Poppy didn't hear. He took a second shot glass from the altar, but this time he poured a trickle of rum on the coconut. "Okay," he said to the squinting Allegra. "Pare jodiendo entonces." He drank the rest. He breathed through his teeth for a second, and then, still looking at the coconut, said, "I don't know what to believe anymore. So I'm going back to the start. This is where I started, as a child of Allegra. So this is where I'll begin again." He laughed without joy. I've forgotten almost everything I used to know about Santeria. I can't find the things I need to perform, few rituals that I can't remember. Connecticut isn't exactly a Santeria mecca, you know. Where the hell do you get agua terrente and hand dock? Santeria was born of adaptation. I will do the best I can with the materials at hand. If Allegra wants to hear me, he will hear me. We stood quietly and together studied the altar for a while. And then, pointing at El Santo Niño de Atocha, he said, "He kinda looks like me." Poppy looked at the picture, then at me. "I guess he does, a little. Hey, you're gonna be 10 soon. You want me to get an outfit like this for you for your birthday?" "No!" I yelled and laughed, and Poppy laughed too, which made me feel better. That's when I knew I was on the right track, that I needed to learn everything I could about Santeria. And Poppy was right. In the 80s, Connecticut in the 80s was no Santeria mecca. My library didn't have a single book on Santeria. They did, however, have lots of books on psychology. I found a book on grief, written for the parents of grieving kids, called Child of Mourning. It featured chapter titles like this: The Maze of Grief, The Child's Journey Through Suffering. Voicing pain, giving your child the words he needs to grieve. And my favorite, Telling Time, how to align your adult internal clock with your child's. You see, adults think of time as linear, a one-way street with a consistent speed limit, but not children. They think time can go forwards, backwards, sideways, loop like a Hot Wheels race car track. You need to understand how children see time to help them understand that the dead stay dead forever. Unless the dead show up one day to tell you to get rid of your stuffed black cat. One chapter towards the end of the book I did find useful. It was called Love Again, how to bring a new member into the family without destroying your child's trust. Apparently, it's very natural to fall in love again after your husband or wife's been dead for a long time. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Your departed loved one would have wanted you to be happy, would want your child to grow up in a household with both a mommy and a daddy, but your child, young, ignorant animal that it is, may not understand that it's okay for you to love again, may feel that you are betraying the memory of the deceased parents. So here are several steps you can take to prepare your child to welcome a new member into the family. But I didn't need to read those steps. I got the message.
Poppy needed to fall in love again. It was natural. It was good. It would help him find his way. Now, who would make a good wife for Poppy? A good mom for me.